Hi folks, editing Sara here, just letting you know that we now have a Patreon and a Discord server. If you'd like to check out either of those, the links will be in the video description or show notes. Hi friends!
Hello Poppets.
Howdy y'all.
And welcome to Muppets, Sex, and Trauma. So, I'm Sara Ezzat.
I am Jack Kramme. I am editor / right-hand man for Passion of the Nerd, content coordinator for Chipperish Media, and co-host of Podcast of the Nerds.
And I'm Josh Gosdin, and I just am a big-ass nerd.
And that is enough. And we're going to be talking today about the episode premiere. In this episode, we meet Commander John Crichton, scientist, astronaut, and son of an astronaut. In the middle of his test flight, something goes wrong. He's whisked away in a big blue something, and suddenly he's not in Kansas anymore. Lost and alone, his ship wanders into a firefight. An alien ship comes out of nowhere, dings his wing, and crashes. While still in shock, Crichton is brought aboard a huge alien ship. He meets the crew, a group of alien prisoners attempting escape. The prisoners are able to free the ship from its control collar and get the hell out of Dodge, accidentally carrying off an enemy fighter in their wake. At this point, John has had enough.
What is the matter with you people?
The action now pauses for a round of introductions.
I'm Rigel the 16th, dominator to over 600 billion people. I don't need to talk to you.
And in a not-so-cozy cell, John witnesses one of the all-time great character reveals as the enemy fighter pilot removes their helmet and is a stunningly beautiful woman who looks human.
Officer Aaron Sun, Special Peacekeeper Commando, Icarian Company, plies our regiment.
Meanwhile, back where the prisoners escaped, we meet the Peacekeepers, space cops with a thing for black leather and fascism, and their understated, clearly totally sane Commander Crace. Crace, it seems, has a brother who was the pilot of the ship that ran into Crichton. He's pissed, he wants revenge. Back on Moya, the crew have a snack and discuss heading to a commerce planet to get something to fix the ship. Then, as the crew head to the planet, John and Aaron escape. She wants to sabotage Moya. He says they should show compassion.
Compassion? What is compassion?
When they get to the surface, they are immediately found by Dargo and Crace, who arrests Dargo and Crichton. Aaron sticks her neck out for Crichton and is deemed irreversibly contaminated, and arrested along with them. Luckily, Crace leaves them with the stupidest stormtroopers in the history of stupid, and John outwits them. Choosing to free both Dargo and Aaron, he invites her to escape with them. Back aboard Moya, they have to do a bit of fancy flying to escape the command carrier. John and Aaron are able to contribute, winning a modicum of respect from the crew, but only a little bit. And it's clear that Crace will keep looking for Crichton. In the quiet of the denouement, John records a message to his dad, reflecting on the ways his world has turned upside down. So, that was episode 1. And, you guys, thoughts?
I liked it quite a bit. I mean, the first thing I noticed is that it doesn't mess around. It gets straight to the point, like, very quickly. Within 5 minutes, he's like, John's lost in space, and I thought that was pretty cool. But I will say, I feel like it's sort of lulled a little bit in the middle, and then towards the end, I started to enjoy it a bit more. I just felt like, in the bits where, like, they're on the planet's surface and all that stuff, I just found myself not caring as much around that point. But then, right at the end, when John's doing the recording for his dad, I was like, oh, that's what I'm here for. Yeah, but overall, look, as a pilot episode goes, pretty good, yeah. Josh, what about you, sir?
I mean, I liked it a lot too. I was kind of surprised. I think this was only like an hour-long pilot, right? This wasn't a telefeature or anything like that. So they did a pretty impressive job of cramming and set up characters and story into 45 minutes.
Yeah.
I also felt the lull, but I felt the lull right before they went down to the planet when they were all just kind of like hanging out on the ship and they're like, so what do we do?
Yeah.
And I think for me, the part that really turned me around on the whole thing was I was worried that they were setting Aaron up to be some sort of like an ongoing mole or something like that, and maybe they are. But really quickly, when Krace cut her off and was like, "No, you're bad too," I was like, "Oh, okay, cool. So here we go. It's Camelot, It's the whole round table against the establishment." So I was pleased by that, I guess, subversion of my jaded expectations.
I think a lull happens. There's always exposition dumps that need to be dumped.
Yeah, and that's expected in a pilot episode, especially one that like doesn't mess around and get straight to the point. Like it's just gonna start rapid firing. But speaking of Krace, was I the only one who got sort of like Star Wars vibes there, or even like General Zod and Co. from Superman 2?
No, I think that the folks who made this show knew that they had limited time to establish mood.
Yeah. Right.
It was when they first cut to the command ship and they panned over to what I guess the front window of the ship or whatever, and it's shaped exactly like a Death Star window or something like that. Like the design was a really clear these are bad guys kind of a design.
Yeah, very, very. Even like the accents and everything. Speaking of accents, I noticed a lot of Australian accents, which I know it was like a half American, half Australian production, but like as an Australian, it feels weird hearing an Australian accent in a production like that.
Although I think Lonnie Tupou, the guy who plays Krace, is New Zealand, I think.
Yeah.
I'll have to check that.
And the blonde lady, his like right-hand woman lady, she's that straight up Australian accent what she was speaking. And I think Rigel sounds kind of Australian too. I
believe they all are, apart from the guy who plays Crichton's dad and Crichton.
Oh wow!
I believe basically everybody is from somewhere in the Anzac area. That continues. There are some Americans, but often it's My criticism of this pilot that I've always had is I wish we hadn't cut to the command carrier until after Aaron takes the helmet off.
Right. Okay.
I wish that was our first. These people look like human moment. But like that's my nitpick after watching it. So many times it's like, oh no, that reveal could have been, but
So Aaron is Officer Sun, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, I thought so. I just couldn't, I still don't know. I'm going to refer to her as Blue Lady because I didn't catch her name. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's
it takes me a little while.
Yeah,
okay.
No, Blue Lady is the other one.
Okay.
Shall we go through the characters then?
Yes, I think it sounds like we need to.
That is a wonderful idea.
So let's start with John. What did you guys think of John?
So John, I straight up get young Chris Evans vibes. I'm talking Human Torch, Chris Evans, Fantastic Four. That is straight up what he reminds me of. And he's just got that sort of all-American white bread vibe, you know what I mean? But I mean, I get annoyed very easily at bravado, and he has a bit of that, but I have a feeling that there's a sensitive side coming, and I'm here for it. That's my thoughts on John.
I was all over his sensitive side. I mean, he's the one who was like, "Have you ever heard of compassion?" And then she's like, "No," and he's like, "Oh,"
right.
And has to explain compassion to a person, but Ben Browder is just a little too clean cut. Maybe this is because I've seen some episodes of Stargate that he eventually winds up in, but it took a little bit for me to push past my initial impression of him being kind of macho and kind of action hero-y looking. to the characterization that they seem to be going for, which is like he's a geek, like he's just a little nerd, but he's a little nerd with like a T shape and washboard abs. So it was a little the casting and the characterization kind of clashed in my head a little bit, but I really like. He's so charming, and he's so like he's just like, yeah, we're gonna try to test out this childhood theory that's gonna drop me from a space shuttle to a planet. No big deal.
Yeah.
He
he treads a line between kind and bravado pretty well. Because we do get that scene where he refuses to leave Aaron, which is pretty nice. Yeah.
I like that.
Did you catch his pop culture references?
Maybe
a couple of them, like Close Encounters.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's not in my notes, so I either missed it or I just forgot to write it down. I don't know.
Oh, there will be plenty more.
At one point, he goes, "Spielberg was wrong," as he's like.
Oh yeah, I do remember that. Yeah.
I think my favorite John, one of my favorite little John things is like, "I'm a damn scientist."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and when they're about to, be blasted out of the sky, and he's like, "Somebody give me some paper because I've got to math real quick."
Yeah. They're just like paper.
Yeah.
There's some clever stuff in here, definitely.
But I also really liked. I really liked how his default mode is compassion. It's like I'm stuck, I'm stranded, I don't know what the heck is going on, and I'm going to fix this cute little robot because it's cute and it's broken.
Right.
He's reaching out already and kind of exemplifying a lot of like humanistic traits.
Yeah.
Yep.
I really love the bit where he first gets onto the ship and he steps onto the bridge and he kind of rub his eyes like, am I actually seeing this? Like, what the hell? That was really charming and funny. I like that. But I felt like he seemed pretty calm though. Like, I know he's a scientist and maybe he has some kind of training for this kind of, but like, if I walked onto a spaceship and ran into these like anthropomorphic beings that I've never seen before, I'd be kind of terrified. But he seems pretty chill about it until Dargo sort of grabs him and starts yelling at him. Yeah.
So how about Aaron?
I don't have much of an impression just yet. I mean, I like that she was, badass and she could basically beat the shit out of anybody. That was very, very, very cool. But I think and look, obviously, where she's about to have an arc where she becomes a good guy, I'm assuming, or she's like an anti-hero of sorts. But yeah, I just don't feel as though I got enough time with her to really form a cohesive opinion just yet, but still a cool character, I think.
Yeah, she was also a little not much there for me as well at this point. It was a little, like I said, I enjoyed the subversion of my jaded expectations, but it was also a little like, oh really, already? Whenever she stood up for John to Crace, that it seemed the setup, I guess, wasn't as strong for me to ride that wave all the way through that interaction very comfortably. But I really did like just her sort of ongoing, like, blowing her air through her teeth anytime they tried to do anything remotely intimidating, and she was not remotely intimidated.
Yeah. That was cool.
And then, just suddenly, not suddenly, I guess, because she was flying the little thing, but being badass enough of a pilot to make John's equations work and fly Moya out of there, like that was really cool. And that they all kind of did it together. He had his hand on hers while she had her hand on the joystick and that kind of thing.
Right. Mm-hmm. We will obviously get to know her more. So I'm going to be keeping my mouth shut.
Mm-hmm.
How about our lovely Dargo?
Dargo, he reminds me so much of like a Skyrim character, like NPC at this point. Like he's a little flat. I want to say a little one-dimensional kind of at this point. I don't know, but I do love his design. The way he looks is freaking amazing. But yeah, I have a feeling I might sort of warm up to him as we go through it. But yeah, I don't know, like I said, like an NPC in a video game. You know, like yeah. Josh, what do you think of Dargo?
Well, I actually feel like I connected with him a little bit more than I did, well, with Aaron at the very least. So, you know, it's going to happen, and we might as well rip this Band-Aid off. Like, most of my nerd reference and sci-fi reference is rooted in Star Trek. So Dargo is Worf.
Yeah.
You know, he's the...
I see that.
The brute, he's the proud warrior race guy, kind of a thing. There was a moment between him and Zahn, like right after they first escape, where...
that scene.
Yeah, and where they're chatting for a minute, and she says something like, "How old are you?" And he says his age in alien language, and she's like, "Oh, so you're just a boy?" And he gets huffy about that, and you know he's like, "No, I've seen some shit. Like I've gone through some stuff. I'm not a boy." And I caught that, and I remember, Sara, all the times that you've talked about some of the themes that you picked up on in your multiple watches of the show, you know, one of which being kind of interrogating masculinity. And so that's what made that moment kind of stand out for me. And from that moment forward to the rest of the episode, I kept seeing this like almost panicked machismo in Dargo, where he was afraid to not be tough. You know?
That went over my head. Yeah, okay. I feel you.
I think I was a little primed for it, but like he when they were confronting the soldiers and he was ready to like, you know, go down fighting, and then, you know, he gets captured, he has this look of like, wait a minute, wasn't I supposed to like die in battle? I don't know, he just has this look of confusion on his face when he's being led away. So I'm really interested to see what they do with him.
I think Worf is a great comparison because that's like now you've said it, that's exactly what he reminded me of too. And I think a part of that, you know, like brute warrior trope, I think it's just been done so many times that when I see it now, I'm like, oh, okay. But yeah, no, I'm open to the fact that, yeah, no, we're going to see character arcs here, and you know, I'm not saying that I necessarily dislike him. It just didn't land instantly for me. But speaking of that scene, I've just got here in my notes. It says, "Are Blue Lady and Bird Chewbacca flirting? This is oddly sexual." Like,
yes,
it is.
There's some heat going on there, man. Like, whew.
I told you this show is sexy,
and I was kind of into it, if I'm being honest.
I'm like, oh yes,
Blue Lady's on, like, not bad.
Oh yeah, no, Blue
not
Lady.
Not bad, gorgeous.
Yeah, I was trying to be chill about it. Yeah.
Fine, the queer lady will be gorgeous.
No,
yeah. Yeah, no
even
no
without
changes.
the paint, which is also yeah.
Even with the paint, I'd probably go there. I would.
No, the paint on top just just exquisite. Yeah.
Yeah.
Zahn.
So I really liked Zahn. So oddly enough, that scene actually didn't land for me. And granted, I've never effected an escape from a maximum security prison, so I don't know what my first priorities would be. But coming out of the heat of battle and turning straight to the hot chick next to you and being like, "So, I've heard about your people," and she's like, "Yeah, what have you heard about Big Boy?" You know, and they start singing "Greased Lightning" back and forth to each other. I was like rolling my eyes a little bit. I was like, "Okay, here's the sexy scene that they're trying to pull us into the show with," and it missed for me because I think because of timing. Honestly, if we'd spliced that scene 20 minutes later into the episode, I probably would have been like, "Oh my stars, Zahn, what are you saying? What is the fourth psych or whatever he asks about?" And he says, "I've heard you people can do the fourth emote." When she goes, "Oh honey, can't I?"
Yeah. I understand what you're saying a little bit, because even though I did kind of like that scene, I felt as though they seemed weirdly familiar with each other for people that had just met. They seemed to have they were just too warm towards each other, even though the dialogue says otherwise. Just their comfort with each other seemed a little they just seemed too comfortable. Yeah.
And again, like I don't know how turned on I would be after escaping with my life and seeing the stars for the first time. Like I might turn to the nearest blue lady and be like, "So,
how you doing?"
Maybe it's more realistic than I'm giving it credit for.
And apart from the flirtiness, what did you think of Zan? Apart from gorgeous and flirty, any other thoughts?
She seems like she has this sort of mystical air about her, kind of like a wise sage, but at the same time there's something very sultry going on too, as I've kind of touched on. She's also just a character that I'm looking forward to getting to know a little better. I think she's great from what I've seen so far.
I think looking forward to getting to know her better is where I am as well. I don't really feel like I've got a good beat on her character other than looking good doing it.
Yeah.
The head anarchist.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there was that tidbit, and there's like, why would a priestess be in prison? But the way Dargo was asking her about it and stuff like that. And the implication that for her, somebody who is measuring their life in span in years is just a boy. So there's definitely there's tidbits, there's breadcrumbs that I'm looking forward to getting a little bit more of. But at least in the pilot, she was just kind of there to look good, it seemed.
Yeah.
It definitely leaves you with a lot of questions, and it doesn't leave you feeling satisfied. It leaves you going, okay, what next? That's how I felt about the episode overall.
We spent most of our time learning about Crichton, Aaron, and Dargo.
Yeah. How about Rigel?
I love Rigel. I love this little guy.
He was fun.
I know he's going to be my favorite character. Can I just say, the helium fart scene, I couldn't believe it. I was like, what? Is this really happening? And I laughed and laughed and laughed and laughed and laughed. My sense of humor is either like intelligent and highbrow or stupid and dumb, and this is in the stupid and dumb category, and I loved it. It just, but I think he's funny, quirky, and I really enjoyed him a lot. Even though, again, we don't really get to know him or what his deal is, but I think he's just great.
Yeah, no, I was cackling my ass off during that scene, and it's such a creative, a creative way to be funny, which is like they're aliens. Almost nothing works the same as what we're used to,
right?
Including their farts.
Yeah, and I love that they pitch shifted their voices up and everything. It was great.
It took me a hot second to realize he was zipping around in a chair. I thought that he just had like tiny feet and was running real quick. But like the way that he just kind of kept popping up when, and they would turn around and he was there to be snarky about something. I was having fun with him. I was enjoying him.
Another point I just want to put out there is just that you can tell where a lot of the budget went, and that's in like the puppets and the prosthetics and stuff, because it all looks amazing. Like the CGI, that's rough. Even for like late 90s, that's rough CGI, but the puppets look amazing, and Dargo looks amazing. Like they went all out, and I love that.
There were a couple of moments where, like when Rigel is trying to, and see, I'm not even sure what he was trying to do. When Rigel was trying to buy, sell, barter something from that giant spider.
Yeah, it's some iridescent fluid. So basically oil.
So he was the one who was, okay, I thought somebody else had taken care of that, and he was just like, we need other things. We need the luxuries to which I am accustomed. And that's what he was trying to do.
Well, yeah. I mean, you probably figured out that he's going to try and serve himself wherever possible.
Oh, well, sure.
Yeah.
But that's...
I bought the oil. Should I pick up some beef jerky at the counter and a bottle of whatever that is? Like, you know.
That spider creature was amazing, though.
Very cool, yeah, and just creepy looking. Like, you could tell it was a puppet, but still, like, I even saw like steam coming off it when it roared and stuff. I thought that was pretty cool.
Well, there's no substitute for, in my opinion, and you know, modern CGI is amazing, but there's no substitute for the knowledge that something is actually there.
Absolutely, because no matter how good this CGI is, you can tell it's CGI. The movement always gives it away, always. Yeah.
Yeah, Rigel and Pilot. I think Pilot was a puppet also,
yes,
isn't he?
Pilot is a puppet.
Or a Muppet, I guess we should say.
Yes, Muppet.
Pilot and Muppet and the giant spider thing, you know, just looked fantastic and so creative. You know, again, very, very just like, they're aliens, but they don't have to look how we're used to imagining aliens looking.
Right. And we even had those little Roomba things that were running around on the floor. They were cute.
DRDs.
I like them. Okay.
The what?
DRDs.
DRDs. Okay.
Yeah, they just look like Roombas to me. But yeah,
They
were
do
cool.
kind of the little.
Yeah, with little eyes.
Who was doing the voice of Rigel? Is that John Hurt?
No, but give me a
he
sec.
sounds Australian to me.
So, the cast, Ben Browder, as John Crichton, we know that. Claudia Black is Aaron Sun. Anthony Simcoe is Ka Dago. Virginia Hay is Pau Zotozan. John Eccleston is Rigel.
Oh.
John Eccleston is the movement. Jonathan Hardy is the voice.
Oh.
So you always have them both listed for...
Sure.
I think Claudia Black's Australian, I think. Or I could be wrong there.
Yes, she is.
Okay, yeah. Because that name sounds familiar, but in like this part of the world. I've heard that name.
She's like, since doing Farscape and Stargate, she does a lot of voice acting.
Oh, okay.
Oh, and the voice of Pilot is Lonnie Tupu, who is also Crace.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Interesting.
And Kent McCord is Jack Crichton. Crichton's dad.
I liked Pilot. Oh wait, we're not there
yet. we can go there. We can talk about Pilot.
Okay.
Jack.
I liked Pilot again. I just feel like there wasn't enough just yet, but I enjoyed it. But I enjoyed Pilot, especially the design, and I'm going to say that about every alien we see. I'm pretty sure, but just really cool design. I like there was like a blue light filter over it too, which was kind of gave like an on-screen sort of vibe to it. But yeah, cool.
Maybe we should have a segment of like the cool designs. Yeah. Cool puppets this episode.
Sounds good. Yeah.
I really liked Pilot also, but I think it's mostly me projecting. I have an affinity for those kinds of characters, the characters that are the symbiotic partner of whatever beast of burden there is. And so if it's a horse, or if it's a flying dragon, or if it's a living ship even, I don't know, for whatever reason, those kinds of characters always strike a really, like, you know, kind of a chord with me. And so Pilot was like, Moya is overtaxed and they can't do it anymore. And, you know, and I was like, yeah, man, you stick up for Moya. Good job. But also, I found it fascinating that Pilot was completely isolated from everybody else, and didn't. Like, I'm wondering how, if Pilot was just sitting on Moya the whole time, or if they yanked somebody out and were like, "Hey, you look tentacly. Why don't you come on and see if you can fly this living ship with us?"
I also wonder if it is like a true symbiotic relationship, kind of like they're attached or something.
Mm-hmm.
That's
I'm not saying anything.
Sara just smiles cryptically.
Questions will be answered.
The whole living ship thing has been done many, many times, but I don't dislike it at all.
Same.
Yeah.
And I feel like the living ship thing has been done in a much more AI-centric way. Like, I'm thinking about Rami from Andromeda, or even the ways that they've sort of humanized, the various ship AIs in Star Trek and Star Wars.
Yeah, I'm specifically remembering a Next Gen episode with a living ship that they had to save or something that was dying.
It was called Tin Man. It's the one that
that's it.
It's
yeah,
with
Harry Groener.
Exactly, yeah, it's the one that Ian talks about in Passionate Nerd.
Yeah.
But no, I like the concept of a living ship. I'm curious to see what dimension that adds to it, because they just kept saying it's a living ship, it's a living ship, it's a living ship, and it didn't really do anything.
And it didn't seem to have any sort of sentient vibe going on.
It shipped. It didn't really live.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
At least so far. And again, Sara smiles cryptically, and I feel like we're
questions will be answered in time. Yes. Yes, and like the writers are Star Trek fans and are pop culture fans. Okay. So it's like not surprising that a lot of these things have inspiration. Like, he starts the introduction to the illustrated guide by saying how much he wanted to be Gene Roddenberry.
Oh, wow.
Well, so he's okay, then I'm feeling a little less like I'm gaslighting myself, but
you are not.
Like, John Crichton's humanism is straight out of Roddenberry's playbook. And even Zahn is a character template that Roddenberry liked. The sexy empath. She's Troy, or she's Ilea. Yeah.
She also kind of reminded me of like a character from like The Fifth Element or something like that, which I'm probably going to talk about a lot because I really like that sci-fi. But yeah,
that was about the same time too. So
yeah, it was actually kind of think of it. Yeah.
It's like the maxim is, great writers steal.
Sure.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. And that's not an indictment at all.
Yeah, it doesn't matter where your ideas come from if you build on them and you do something with them.
Yeah, and like, look, everything's been done. Everything. It doesn't matter what you can think of. It's been done in some way before.
But it's never been done the way that you do it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's how you make art.
So, yes, we're going to see a lot of familiar traits.
Okay.
Yes, we're going to see a lot of familiar tropes. But what they do with them. Yeah. Sorry.
I was worried about over trekking my commentary. Because I feel like there's a bias in fandoms when someone jumps into a new fandom from a different fandom and brings like, oh, that's just like Star Trek. Oh, that's just like Star Trek. Oh, that's just like Star Trek.
But that's the lens that you have, though, and that's okay.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm sure we're going to be, I'm going to say it, we're going to be mentioning Buffy a lot because we are Buffy fans. I mean, I'm wearing a Sunnydale shirt.
Yeah.
All right, nice.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. The show is going to reference Buffy. We can talk about talk about pop culture.
I'm so much more invested now. No, I'm kidding.
The thing is, we always look for the way that Farscape's it, Yeah, there's always going to be pop culture references. There's always going to be inspiration from somewhere, and it's just like, because it is fun to be. I envy the writers. We would all love to have a show where we can be like, I am going to take that thing that they brought up and didn't do anything with, and I'm going to do something with it.
Yes.
Because,
Right.
stories always end up with so many extra ideas.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. There's nothing... You're you, sweetie. Of course you're going to track it up.
Exactly. It's the frame of reference that you have, and that's okay.
Well, then good. I'm glad it wasn't. So Dargo's Worf. Zahn is Troy.
Yes.
And Zahn is actually more Ilea than Troy. Ilea is a character from Star Trek: The Motion Picture who was a proto-Troy, and like literally in her first scene in the Star Trek: The Motion Picture, they reference the oath of celibacy that she had to take in order to be around other aliens.
Okay.
And so the fact that like the first thing that Dargo asks Zahn is like, "Hey, can you do the fourth?" I gotta remember what the thing is because I just remember it was the fourth something.
I think it was the fourth sensation.
Can you do the fourth sensation? And she was like, "Buddy, can I?"
And I don't know. I was kind of into it.
Yeah, Zahn did not take an oath of celibacy.
And then later we pan across. We're getting this like mood-setting montage of the crew like settling in, and they're all they've all got these furrowed brows, and they're all just and we pan across her naked meditating, and I was like, oh.
Right? I was like, oh, like this show is making me feel things I didn't know I could feel.
Yep. And the ear kiss. I love the ear kiss.
What? I was like, that's interesting, but then it's not explained. I'm like, what? Did she just like...
She's an alien.
Whatever it was, it felt good.
You have as much context as John has.
Yeah. But I'm sure we'll find out what that is. Maybe? I don't know. But they showed us it, but then they didn't explain it. So I was like, all right, cool. We'll see.
So we talked about our ship. How about our antagonist? What did you think of our boy Grace?
Our boy Grace.
And he's so extremely sane.
He's cartoony. He seems like a cartoony villain at this point, and I hate to say that. He's like a Dick Dastardly, twirly mustache kind of villain, and I don't know. I can't connect to that. But I mean, it sounds like he's going on a revenge arc, plot, whatever, and that could be fun. But yeah, he kind of came across as a bad for the sake of being bad, Dick Dastardly, just cartoony villain. Not necessarily an indictment again, but I don't know. I just couldn't really get into that because it seemed one-dimensional.
I was surprised. I guess it's same, and it was in a similar kind of way. I was surprised that they seemed to be setting him up to be a long-term villain because he seemed very much like a villain of the week.
Yeah.
When he was like, "You killed my brother," and everybody was like, "Actually, it was an accident. Even irreversibly contaminated, Aaron is saying it was an accident." And he's like, "But you killed my brother." And they're like, "Okay, buddy. All right, cool. Whatever, man. We won't bother trying to explain logic or reason to you."
I do kind of enjoy... He is total Disney villain, especially at this point. They're all gonna... Whatever. You'll see. Yeah. But I do enjoy his Disney villain, high drama, high camp, just eating every piece of scenery.
I think I needed more exposition on the villain side to understand what the big deal is.
Yeah, that would have been helpful, I think.
And to understand a little bit of the geography of the world that we're in now, because when they go to that planet, are we within the Peacekeepers' sphere of influence? Are we outside of it?
Right.
So I'm looking. I needed more, and I'm looking forward to getting more.
Some things we will get more explained. Some things we won't, because this is part of the weird adventure of being lost in space.
Well, it's very much got Crichton's POV engaged. Like you said a second ago, we're seeing the world through John's eyes, and John also doesn't know what the hell's going on.
Right.
Yeah, he's Dorothy Gale.
Mm-hmm.
There's no place like home. I hope he gets home. I really do. Like, that's just kind of sad if he doesn't. I don't know. It's kind of like give me like Sam Beckett vibes. You know, like, yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely a Sam Beckett-esque thing. Quantum Leap.
Yeah.
I definitely here, and I guess so. For all of the nits that I've been picking, here's the only one that actually knocked me out of the show for a second, which was modern space engineering builds very fragile spaceships here on Earth. You know, they're made out of fiberglass, and so when John's tiny little space shuttle is just sitting in the middle of an asteroid field, and Crace's dumbass brother flies into it. Like, John isn't moving.
Yeah.
Crace's dumbass brother flies into it, careens off of it, and is destroyed. I was like, nah, that, you know, 20th century, 21st century human space engineering does not build such sturdy vehicles. And,
yeah, that's protagonist armor.
Yeah, and Crace's brother is flying like an actual fighter, which is supposed to be a little bit more durable, I would think. Mm-hmm. So that was the only and then later on he's like, you killed my brother. And I was like, I think your own engineers killed your brother. That was the only moment where I was knocked out of it. And every show's got him, you know, for sure. And Star Trek has plenty of go-go. But everything else I was still able to file away, and we'll get more of this later. We'll get more of this later. We'll get more of this later. And then I was like, he hit a space shuttle with a warship, and the warship lost?
Maybe IASA builds better than NASA.
Yeah, I noticed that. Like, NASA wasn't on board. They had to create a fictional space agency.
The story is NASA was totally on board. They loved the idea and everything, but they would have required script approval on every script if they for them to use NASA.
Oh, okay.
And I mean, what's the point when we're just leaving?
Yeah.
When we're on Earth for like, and then we're gone. So they decided to change it to IASA.
Wow, okay. Yeah, that's like the first thing I noticed, because I'm a space nerd. I love all that like space science-y stuff, and I'm like, LASA? What the hell is LASA?
International Air and Space Association.
What does it stand for?
International and NASA.
Oh.
So just pretend that we managed to cooperate, and apparently that means we build better ships.
Clearly.
Oh, okay.
That's just in this world.
I mean, I would have preferred if they just made something up completely, just like Space Force or something.
No, stop.
Sorry, yeah.
No, we can't. That's too real.
Yeah. You know,
I'm a very fragile
Space
American.
XYZ or something. I don't know.
I'm in a very fragile American place, and we can't talk about Space Force.
I understand, buddy. I'm sorry.
Well, should we talk about the Peacekeepers as an idea?
We should absolutely talk about the Peacekeepers as an idea.
I got like First Order vibes, basically, like
Nazis.
That's yeah. Space Nazis. Just I don't know if I can say much beyond that. Very, very First Order, very Empire, very Nazi. Like
space cops.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So yes, like they're called Peacekeepers, which is another word for police officers, but like. I wasn't getting cops, and maybe we're going to expand on that a little bit. I was getting Nazis. I was getting maintaining order through the threat of military, which is, American cops these days. But maintaining order through the threat.
Too real, man.
So I definitely walked myself right into that brick wall there. But I don't know if this is a good time to talk about. I'm not terribly conservative as an American, as a Texan. I'm fairly liberal. I endeavor to be as liberal and progressive as I can in all of my leanings, and so I spent the better part of the last 4 years not a happy camper.
Me too, and I'm a million miles away.
That's part of the problem.
Yeah, right?
When you're the only superpower left in the world, supposedly, what we do matters on a global scale. But whatever. Anyways.
And I'm a Middle Eastern woman, so enough said.
I mean, you could make the argument that China's becoming a superpower, but whatever, it doesn't matter.
I don't feel like I feel like us declaring ourselves the last superpower was what they call hubris rather than fact.
Yeah.
Just because So yes, they're space Nazis, and if they're supposed to be space cops, that missed me. But that again may also be I live in the 21st century America.
Right.
I mean, I think a lot of the fandom calls them space cops, but that might be partly influenced by how people see cops.
Again, I mean, if it walks like a duck and talks and quacks like a duck,
they are like the stuff that's a little hard to sort of grapple with the first time because everything moves by so fast. Is they are sort of guarding a whole collection of Leviathans that are all prison transports. So like they are acting as like prison guards.
Okay.
Oh, I missed all of that.
Yeah. Me too.
I was imagining that they got off of a prison planet and boarded Moya.
Okay.
Not that Moya was a prison transport.
Yeah, Moya
I didn't
was
get that either.
Yeah, it goes by very fast. Oh. But yeah, Moya was a prisoner transport. They say they were going to be transferred to some worse place. All three have been imprisoned for a while. You see the rings on Dargo?
Mm-hmm.
That's because he's been chained to the wall.
Oh! Oh! That makes my collarbone hurt.
I definitely didn't get that.
No.
Okay, so that makes a few of the I guess character details make a little bit more sense then. Like where did Pilot come from? That kind of thing. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I know that's maybe that's sort of spoilers, like that some of those details come out later, but a lot of it is there. It's just it goes by so fast in the first episode that you miss that. Yeah. This is a prison transport of prison transports. They've been incarcerated for a while on the ship. Rigel mentions that he bribed the guards.
Yes.
Okay.
All that I caught. I definitely didn't catch that they started out on the ship though. Okay.
And that thing that comes off when Dargo rips the stuff is a control collar.
Yeah.
Controlling Moya.
I saw that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think there's a lot that I didn't absorb for some reason, it sounds like.
Well, this is a consequence of using John as our POV character, and so we're probably not that far off of where the writers want us to be in terms of not quite having a firm grasp at this point.
This is why the first bunch of episodes are fairly slow, is so that we get a chance to get to know all the characters.
There's a phenomenon that occurs when you ask someone to critique or analyze or react to an episode of a show that does what stories are supposed to do. It raises unanswered questions. And so I guess for myself and Jack, I feel like you wouldn't disagree, but patience on us nitpicking things that we don't quite understand yet.
Right.
For those of you who wind up listening to or watching this, would be appreciated because we're taking slices of the cake. We don't know what the cake shape is yet.
Exactly. And we're trying to we watch the episode trying to think about stuff to talk about too. So we're gonna bring up stuff that may not be all that pertinent, Mm-hmm.
Details that stand out to us.
This is why I'm sort of playing guide, so I can to tell the things that it's okay, hopefully, to tell you the little stuff. And
so yes, helping us understand where Moya started out. That was I appreciated that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you definitely this recording right now has helped me understand one. I just saw a lot more than I did just watching it alone.
Well, hopefully that'll help the folks who are watching it to begin with for the first time out there. But yes,
join us.
Yeah, we have an escaped group of prisoners who have been held in prison for some time.
There were definitely a few things about this show or this episode that I really enjoyed, that I dare I say loved. And one of them is just the design of everything, like the character really design, nice. The production design. There's this really gorgeous shot when they first get to, the bizarre planet, the Commerce planet, that looks like the kind of a thing that NASA takes pictures of the International Space Station or the space shuttle, and it's just like this tiny little image of Moya against this huge planet backdrop. That was gorgeous and really well rendered, especially for the CGI of the time. And I like that kind of stuff. I like the kind of stuff that, as much as I like Star Trek doesn't do a very good job of reminding you that space is big. I like the kind of sci-fi that reminds me that space is big and I am tiny.
Yeah.
And this did a really good job of that.
Yeah, I agree.
You just kind of love John's moment when he's on the planet. It's like, I'm on an alien planet.
Yes. So relatable.
Yeah, that stuff was done really well. The whole him just being like, what the hell is going on? Like, what is, like, that was really well done.
So, we didn't talk much about before he left the planet. So, what did you think of the scene with his dad?
I really quite enjoyed that for the simple fact that it gave off vibes of Uncle Ben with great power comes great responsibility vibes, and I would be willing to bet money on the fact that there is going to be lots of callbacks to that conversation. I thought it was touching. I thought his dad was a little cliche, but that scene was still gorgeous. Knowing Ben, because I knew going in that John was going to get lost in space, and this was his sort of goodbye. So that sucked me in. The stuff with his dad was like my favorite part of the show. Really, this episode wasn't my favorite scene as such, but that was my favorite plot point, shall we say?
I also really enjoyed the intro on Earth. Again, it did a really good job of contrasting our current world versus the fantastic world in which he winds up. But so with his dad specifically, there was for me a lot of Uncle Ben in that, but there was also a lot of how do I say this? There was a lot of Uncle Ben, but there was also an impression that John is trying to live up to an idea he has of his father, and his father was trying to tell him, don't worry about it.
Right.
It was almost like they were having two different conversations with each other at the same time. And so...
Yeah.
Yeah, and so at the end, and it ties together nicely at the end when he's making the tape recording for his dad, and there's shades of I hope you're proud of me for what I did.
Yeah. And also kind of bits like, oh, I should have listened, because his dad was trying to preach caution and to tell him to be careful.
I find daddy issues is present in just so much of our media. Think about the way the Marvel Cinematic Universe does it. It's kind of like, this is the shorthand. I'm going to sort of reference Lonnie Diane Rich here of Chipperish, but she's always talking about it's the shorthand we get for giving a guy vulnerability is, let's give him a dose of daddy issues. But I like that in Crichton's case, I like the line, it's not who you are, Dad, I love who you are, it's being son of who you are. So there's an emotional intelligence in that, in being I know what my issue's with, and it's not with you. But it's a me issue. I love that. It's sort of, yeah.
Another thing, just quickly that I noticed about the stuff on Earth is that the space shuttle John launches on was called Collaroy, which is a seaside suburb of Sydney. Quite a beautiful place too. And I wonder if that was an intentional nod to the seaside suburb of Sydney. Yeah,
Surely, with it being an Australian production.
I mean, it must be, right? I mean, I didn't look it up, but yeah, that's the first thing I noticed. Hey, Collaroy, I've been there. I know that place.
Jack will be tracking the Australia Easter eggs.
As well.
Absolutely.
So that's what we need, is we need to understand. I need to understand. I don't have a lot of Australian context.
That's what I'm here for. That's what I'm here for.
That and your beautiful face.
Honestly.
Thanks.
Look at that. Dargo wishes.
Guys. Oh wow, that's like the best compliment I've ever. Oh wow, wow! You guys always gassing me up.
It's fun.
Yeah. Oh, can we also talk about the intro, like the theme? I love it. It's so over the top and intense, and I just love it. It's great. It's great.
No, it was taking me back. It's very vintage, late 90s, early 2000s.
It's very of that time, yeah.
You're never going to see that title sequence again, because from here on out, there's a voiceover.
Ah. Kind of disappointed, if I'm being honest, because I really liked it.
Oh, the music stays the same. There's a voiceover on top of it, which tells you the story. It's famous.
Right.
It's one of those very important bits of Farscape is the voiceover at the beginning that is on every episode but the premiere.
Okay.
Because it gives the story away.
The scene where he goes through the wormhole, it's so cheesy, but I love it. It's so cheesy and the CGI reminds me. Do you guys remember that show called Sliders?
Yes.
Yes.
That's what it made me think of. Yeah.
Yes, that is so right.
Yeah, like really like cheesy, but I really liked it.
Yeah,
I think that's a general theme of the show is cheesy but good.
yeah, I'm getting that. Yeah.
And like the special effects aren't good, and yet they are beautiful.
Yeah, but like giant mare snakes. So I mean,
right. So it's aspirational, which I've always been.
Yeah,
we've talked in our off hours. We've talked in our personal time together of like, I will always both forgive and extol a story that has high aspirations, even if it doesn't quite meet them.
Right.
And so if the CGI, I guess, budget got stretched by the ideas that these guys had of what it should look like, then that's an acceptable limitation that I'll take.
Right.
The word we're looking for is camp. When your ambitions are high and your budget is not, and you go all in, camp.
Camp, I think, sums up this entire episode.
Yes.
So much of it. Which I really like. But yeah, that's the thing. Like that's why like new Doctor Who or New Who as they call it has a fan base because it's really good in writing. It's trying to say some really good things, and so who cares if there's some weird thing that looks like shit because it's bad CG? Like it doesn't matter. Like we know it's not real anyway. Like you make certain concessions in your mind when you're watching something. So yeah.
I'm not worried that the living spaceship didn't look like how a real living spaceship would probably look.
Right?
Yeah. The design on Moya is lovely, though, isn't it?
Really,
like
though.
the hallway, like the way that there's. Did you notice like there's no hard edges? There's no straight lines.
Yeah.
There weren't really any doors either. Like everybody was behind, even when we panned across Naked Zahn meditating, everybody was behind like a screen, or like a room divider. It wasn't a door.
Mm-hmm. I definitely appreciated that about the set design because, stuff like this that doesn't have a giant budget often a set starts looking like a set. You know what I mean? Like it looks fake. Whereas this, they did a pretty good job considering they obviously didn't have a giant budget. I mean, it was filmed in Australia for crying out loud. So, I mean, that says a lot because we have a film industry, but it's not much, you know. Yeah, I think I get the feeling that there was a lot of talented people who knew how to make do, you know, make do with what they had, because that comes across
in the grand tradition of Star Trek
and sci-fi generally. I think it's great that it's done in Australia. I think having it outside the normal expected places lends it an extra sort of alien thing.
right.
I mean, much as I love that everything, you know, is filmed in Vancouver and Victoria, I know those places.
Yeah.
I live on Vancouver Island, so like when I watch Deadpool, my brain and everything is Vancouver. My brain sort of goes, hey, what does Deadpool do on the ferry? Since I know that the X-Men mansion is Hatley Castle, like it's up the island. And, like, yes, that was a joke just for the BC audience of like maybe one person. Okay. But like you get that sort of thing, like when it's the usual places, you know, when you've seen the same thing in every episode of the X-Files. It becomes familiar, and it's nice to have something that's shot somewhere else. You know, it's not.
Yeah.
I love Star Trek, but there's only so many times we can see that one spot in the desert with the big rock.
Right. Yeah. Also, around this time this was filmed, you know, sort of turn of the century, there was a lot more stuff being filmed here. There were a lot of American productions were being done here. I think it had to do with the fact of their currency conversion at the time. It was cheaper to film here. And I think like we would just charge people less for filming in a certain part of the city. Like and lasted up until probably like 2010. And I don't know what happened. I think maybe Fox Studios closed a portion of their production here or something, and maybe currencies are a little different now. But yeah, at that time there was a big boom here of American productions being filmed.
Okay. So what are you looking forward to finding out more about? Think we sort of
just everything really. I'm looking forward to getting to know the characters more. I really want to find it in with Dargo. I want to get to know him and get to like him. And yeah, I'm just looking forward to getting stuck into this universe, you know. And like I don't really know what's going to happen, so I don't really have any expectations. So I guess I'm just looking forward to the ride.
Same, honestly. Like all of the characters that I mentioned that I didn't really get a good beat on stood out to me because they seem interesting. Like they seem like characters that I want to get to know better. And so I'm looking forward to learning more about what's up with Zahn, and you know, I'm really looking forward to getting into the relationship between Pilot and Moya. It's got my interest hooked for sure.
So, folks, next episode is going to be Thrown for a Loss. And make sure you check the title of the episode because, like I said, they aired them out of order, and so they're in different orders in different places. So look for Thrown for a Loss. We're going to get to know the characters a bit more. There's nothing particularly horrifying or anything that you need to be prepared for. There is some discussions of drugs. It ain't subtle. But we'll get to that. We'll get to that. There's nothing too upsetting.
Okay.
Cool.
So, yeah. That is next episode, Thrown for a Loss.
Cool.
And it's a pun, because thrown. Right. So, Okay, so shall we go to what is your favorite bit?
Helium fart scene, hands down, hands down. It shocked me. I was like, "Is this really happening? Are they really doing this?" I loved it. It was funny. It was well done. And I just didn't expect it. I didn't see it coming at all. And I hope there is more like silly stuff like that. I really do, because that's a lot of fun. But as a runner up, I'm also going to say the "with great power comes great responsibility" scene with the dad. I like that bit too.
For me, it was the ending scene where he's recording to his dad on the tape recorder. He's fixing the little robot. What you call it? DRT?
DRD.
DRD. He's fixing little DRD's, little droopy antenna. And like three, because it was Aaron, it was Rigel, and it was Drago all walked through, interacted with John, and then walked out. It was very. It's hard to describe why I enjoyed that so much, because it's very cliched, and we've thrown that word around a couple of times, and I want to mention why I don't think that's a bad thing in a second. It's very cliched, but it was also effective. It got the job done in terms of setting up relationships and giving John a chance to reflect his own character back. And it was also it was staged like a stage play.
Yeah,
like a character walked on stage and then walked off stage after the interaction. And I really enjoyed the whole thing. And there was a couple of like long shots in it too, where I got the impression that a lot of it was done in one take.
But I get the impression that this show's gonna do the feels really, really well.
Yeah, for sure.
That's not a spoiler. Yes.
Okay.
It's
cool.
It's in the damn name. It's Sex, Muppets, and Trauma.
Right?
Muppet, Sex, and Trauma. But it's
Muppet, Sex, and Trauma.
It's in the name. It's Muppet, Sex, and Trauma. But I don't think cliches are necessarily bad. I feel like
no, absolutely not.
Cliches get a bad rap, and I'm about to defend cliches. So maybe this is going to be the turning point. Cliches get a bad rap, but they're tools. All they are storytelling tools. Like we don't have a lot of time to be given information in a format like this, and so to model the set design of Krace's ship after the Empire from Star Wars lets us know right away, bad guys.
Yeah.
And we don't have to spend a lot of time on exposition of like, these are evil people and here's why they're evil.
Yeah.
We just know they're evil. And so it was a cliche of like characters coming and going in the protagonist's, little sphere of influence works because it got the information across that it needed to get across, and it also established like these people are stuck with each other.
See, I would call those tropes and not cliches. I think a cliche is a trope that's worn out, and a trope is a beginning and not an end. The question is, where does the trope take you?
So I think cliches and tropes are cliches and tropes because they've been done so many times before. But I think I touched on it just before, that just because something has been done a million times doesn't necessarily mean it's bad or not enjoyable. I mean, yeah, they are tropes and cliches for a reason, but they can still be fun.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the story of sperm meet egg has happened how many times? And never the same twice.
Right. Right. That's beautiful, Sara. I like that.
Oh, hey. Okay, so my actual favorite part would be a spoiler. So
Okay.
I am going to say one of my favorite lines is, "I'll fill you full of little yellow bolts of light."
yeah, when he's pointing the gun. I noticed that too. That made me giggle a bit. I like that.
Which, can we talk about the script writing and the acting and the post-production guys all had to have agreed by the time they were filming what the lasers were going to look like in order for that line to even exist. I love it.
Yeah. You can tell that it's a well thought out piece.
Yes.
And it's very like, even in just this pilot episode, it's actualized. I forgot to mention it before, but one of my critiques would be that they did try to cram a lot into this pilot, but that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
But yeah,
That's what a pilot's for.
True. Yeah.
Maybe I'll put a little bit at the very end of the this episode, after the credits, little spoiler, what my actual favorite bit is.
I think you should. I absolutely think you should.
Yeah.
For the people who've seen the show.
Yeah, then we can rewatch it once we're a couple episodes in or whatever.
We'll both be like, oh!
Yeah, like, oh, I get it now. That's cool.
So this is Farscape.
Yeah.
So, Jack, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at lackofsurprise1. That's all one word with the number 1 at the end. You can find me on my podcast with my dear friend Ian, aka Passion of the Nerd. We do a podcast called Podcast of the Nerds, available here on YouTube and other places where you can find such things. And yeah, you can check out some of the work I do for Chipperish Media. I do a bunch of their podcasts. You can find that over at www.chipperish.com or chipperishmedia.com, I think.
You absolutely should check out Chipperish, and I should say we totally stole the favorite part bit from...
We did. I noticed that, but that's okay. That's okay.
We've talked about great writers.
Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery.
Exactly.
Yes, with love, we count Chipperish Media and Passion of the Nerd as friends of the show.
Absolutely.
And Josh doesn't want to give out his personal stuff, so if you want to contact him, it'll be through the show socials, which I will include here, because I haven't made them yet.
I'm a noob to the scene, so if you want more of me, come back here.
Yeah, we'll probably all have access to that. So if you want to get in touch with any of us or all of us, hit us up there.
Yeah, I will be managing it all so that I can filter out any spoilers, and I will pass along the non-spoilered stuff to the guys.
Good stuff.
You put in any spoilers, it'll probably get deleted by me. Unless it's an email, then I'll file them away.
Yeah. And
if
guys,
you have spoiler thoughts,
cool.
Email them. I'll file them away. We'll have a thing. But just be cool and
just be cool.
No spoiling for the boys.
Be cool.
It's very broad, but I think it works. Just be cool.
Be cool.
Yeah.
Before I start quoting West Side Story to all y'all.
We haven't had any singing this episode.
Hey, it's not done yet. Listen. We're not done yet.
But I have to shamelessly plug my stuff too.
Yes.
I am Sara Ezzat. You can find me at the YouTube channel, The Costume Codex, where I talk about costumes and meaning and media and stuff like that.
Wonderful channel.
And I've just had quite the subscriber boost, so I'm a little shell-shocked. I just passed at 600. I don't know what it'll be by the time this recording actually goes out. But yeah, if you're interested in that, and you can find me on Twitter at Bluestockin Sara, BLUESTOCKINSARA. And I will. There'll be links to all our stuff in the show notes, hopefully. Yeah, so that is me. Okay, folks, that is Muppet Sex and Trauma for now. And come back next time for Throne for a Loss.
Thanks, friends.
Bye.
Bye.
It happened again!
No! That's the outro. That's it, right there.
No, because it won't make any sense unless you watch the video.
Who cares? It makes sense to us.
I'll put it on the video one and not the audio one.
The blooper. That can be a blooper. Hello, little fella.
Spoiler here for a second. Anyone wondering what my actual favorite part is? It's when Aaron says, "This is all that I know. This is all that I have been." And Crichton says, "You can be more." It's the call to adventure. And I love it. And we'll wait until a certain second season episode to tell them that that's my favorite part.
Let's do it.
Welcome to the One American's Journey Through Australia's BDSM Scene. Sometimes called.
What kind of podcast are we doing?
And there is our ending.